Greetings, Stalkers, and welcome back to the Grymm Mansion. I am your uncloaked hunter, Weird Aldrich, and I am joined this night and all nights by my despicable friend.
Your unaproned scientist, Abomination.
Clearly, those introductions weren't very great for this topic. My apologies.
I
I
mean,
need wine.
the characters are very much uncloaked in this movie, except for one. But yeah, we're going back to the 80s.
To the unspecified countries of Central America to destabilize some governments. We will be talking about Predator. The candles are lit, the circles have been closed, and the words of power have been recited. Let us begin tonight's gathering.
Well, obviously, I think the elephant in the room is that this movie is not considered a horror movie. Although,
Now, all you have to do really is spin it in the right way, and the way that we watch it over here, from the point of view of the survivors, this killer offing the cast one by one.
yeah,
It has a lot of things that could potentially make it a horror movie. At least
the
even the whole thing of not showing the menace.
and the whole premise is the premise of a horror movie, except it's obviously not. It's not shot that way necessarily. Yeah, and it happens. And it happens. This movie was released in essentially the golden age of slashers.
Hmm.
Am I wrong? Yeah.
Late 80s, correct?
Anyway, yeah. Let's.
Yeah, we are getting a little bit ahead of ourselves. So
We're just trying to justify ourselves, and I don't know why we're doing that. Because we don't need to justify nothing that we do here. So.
I second that. All right, so the movie opens with shots of a small, what seems to be a small army unit assembling in a jungle in an unspecified location somewhere in Central America. There are a lot of homoerotic shots of men looking at and greeting each other. And there's the very famous scene of Dutch and Dylan shaking hands, where they flex for like a good 2 seconds. We focus on their biceps. You can't tell me that this isn't sexual in
I'm
any
pretty
way,
sure.
shape, or form.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure this spawned a lot of new uh things. Whatever you want to call them, but yeah.
So this Dutch guy, he comes over with a military rescue team, essentially, of five. It's him and five other people. He meets with his old friend from apparently Vietnam, who debriefs him on this mission. They have to rescue someone over the jungle. That's the plan, essentially. But whereas Dutch is very focused on controlling his unit, the men he knows, he hasn't worked with Dylan. Dylan has been pushing papers somewhere in a CIA office. So it's weird for Dutch when Dylan insists in coming along.
Yeah, so right, so if I understood correctly, they both were teammates during the Vietnam
Teammates, yes.
teammates in
They were
were
playing for the same team.
yeah. I don't
Go
remember.
Team America.
Yeah, I guess during Vietnam, at least. Yeah, I think they mentioned that.
They're war crime buddies.
Yeah, they enjoy it way too. If they make it seem like it was fun, like it was, and an enjoyable, almost kind of like a vacation for them, which immediately sets the underlying message of this movie, which is army good, America good,
Jungle bed.
jungle bad, exactly. But yeah, so we have a diverse cast of strong men.
Yeah, not all of them are white. Let's
That's what I'm saying. It's the inside the strong military man archetype, you have quite a lot of variation.
yeah.
So you have the right. So Schwarzenegger or Dutch is the
He's the guy who flies straight.
yeah,
He's the leader of the team.
yeah. Then you have Dylan, who's the more intelligence based, whatever. You have the white guy who's there to impress his wife, his girlfriend. I don't know. He's constantly making jokes, really bad jokes about his girlfriend.
He's really trying to make up. Um,
Yeah, so
he's probably the newest guy, also.
yeah, he's trying to get into the level of the other guys. Then you have the Native American who's constantly tracking things because
White man was here. Sorry.
some other characters.
The
Oh yeah,
Australian.
yeah. You
Don't
have the
forget the
Australian.
Australian.
Exactly, you have the Australian. Actually, funny.
Token black guy.
What?
Token black guy.
Token, exactly. Because yeah, you have Dylan, who is the non-token black guy, and then you have Mac, I think. Who's the
Yes.
token black. I think that's it. Or at least I can
I
remember.
think that's from. Yeah, that's probably enough.
That's like what, 7? No.
No, there's 6. Yeah, I think there's 7 with Dylan. Yes.
Okay, there we go.
Right. So whatever. The group bonds like real macho men on the way there in the helicopter. And well, upon landing, they are completely on their own. There's absolutely no backup, no one to come get them. They have to make it back to the landing zone on their own because they are essentially behind enemy lines. It's a black ops mission, sort of, kind of thing. The jungle is misty and labyrinthine, but they eventually find wreckages of another helicopter and about, I think it was like 6 dead GIs, right? They
Yeah.
are flayed, gone.
Supposedly the guys that they were told that they were going to rescue, right? Because they thought that they had been kidnapped.
Mhm.
And they find out that no, instead of being kidnapped, they actually were brutally murdered and skinned and hung upside down. And yeah, and it's pretty messed up. Not to mention that these were supposedly the teammates of Dylan.
They were the unit operating in that area.
Yeah.
It's interesting that Dutch, not immediately, but after, because these people are unrecognizable at this point. They have no skin on them, and Dutch actually recognizes them through a dog tag and identifies them as Green Berets, which are an elite group inside of the American army, and it's very weird for them to be found all dead in this sort of situation.
Yeah. They wouldn't be they would it would be really hard for them to be like for this to happen to them, I guess.
At this point, the Native American guy is absolutely freaking out because he cannot find a single track leading back to whomever killed the GIs.
Mm-hmm. And also, meanwhile,
Yeah, the creature, whatever is hunting them.
yeah, there is something watching them. We see what appears to be some kind of heat vision, and the muffled, almost like distorted voices of them.
There's a little confrontation between Mac and Dylan, where he seems to be onto him and sets up a bit of tension between the two characters. Whereas Mac knows that he's hiding something, Dylan swears that he doesn't know why the Green Berets are here. Apparently they were also under his nose. So whatever I said before was wrong. But they do eventually find the guerrilla group that they were looking for. There's a little encampment of them holding still some of the hostages.
Yeah, Dutch sees a hostage getting shot.
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, we gotta treat these guys. We
Fix
gotta
them right up.
we gotta deal with this situation.
So he decides to immediately raid the place. They blow the gorilla to next week. You want to say something?
Yeah, it's just the details like Dutch. They had like a truck that was being like repaired, and he puts yeah he sneaks in towards it, puts like some mines or something like explosives on the truck, and then just pushes the truck into the core of the camp, and then blows it up, and then they all start shooting, and just you know,
Arnie being Arnie.
typical action movie fashion, all the bad guys are killed and none of the good guys are even harmed in the slightest.
Obviously.
Oh, and interesting is that the some of the supposed terrorists are speaking Russian as they're trying to like leave. They're trying
Oh yeah,
climbing
this is
onto
something that you noticed.
yeah,
Indeed.
they're trying to climb onto the helicopter, and then the helicopter blows up. Then there's a hostage that tries to shoot or to attack Dutch, and Dutch just slaps her unconscious basically. And yeah, this is when Dutch realizes, oh,
We're also being set up.
yeah, this isn't normal.
I think they find some papers and intelligence that this is in fact Soviet-backed shit, and they're fighting essentially a proxy war. And I guess he doesn't want to be a mercenary.
Yeah, so essentially, from what I understood, is Dylan needed this sort of like these elite fighters to deal with this outpost, which is essentially a Soviet outpost. I mean, by the looks of it, this isn't the kind of mission that they were supposed to do. So Dylan set them up, essentially lying and saying that, oh no, we're actually trying to rescue some hostages, and actually was just an excuse to have them on the team to attack this important strategic outpost. And yeah, Dutch is completely messed up, and
Yeah, trust broken completely.
yeah, and it's actually it's heartbreaking to see two bros uh like this.
It is what it is.
Then there's an interesting scene in which Dylan is grabbing the hostage, the only surviving hostage, the girl who apparently only speaks Spanish, and Mac is like slightly behind him and says, "Hey, Dylan, come here." And it's like, "What is it?" And he's like, "Turn around." And Dylan turns around, and Mac kind of slightly stabs his back with a dagger, and Dylan turns around and he sees that Mac has just stabbed a little scorpion that was climbing Dylan's back, and he's like, "Don't mention it."
Right. At this point, Dutch is just itching to get back, so he tells his men that they must find a way to push into the landing zone, because again, no one's going to come to pick them up. We do get another POV of the hunter, who seems to be able to play back whatever he can, whatever he picks up on this whatever. We have no idea what this thing is.
Yeah, but
So it sees in shades of heat. Sorry, lack of a better science term. And it can use mimicry.
Yeah, it's heat signatures. Like similar to the ones that some radars have. And yeah, it apparently plays back. It records audio and then plays back the audio, and it's a little distorted. Sometimes it's like really high pitched. Sometimes it's really low pitched. It's weird. Perhaps it's because it's not recording in a human level, or in a human.
I mean, you're only saying recording because like the what happens, right? You know what it looks like.
True.
But at this point, we have no idea what it could be.
We just hear the playback, and we don't know if it's like a memory or whatever.
Yeah.
But
Right.
it after they leave the camp, just in complete ruins, just the wreckage of the camp. Yeah, the creature kind of sneaks around and grabs the dead scorpion with a hand that isn't
It's humanoid.
Yeah, it has 5 fingers, I think, but it's not. It's weird. But of course, with the heat vision, it's kind of hard to actually see what's going on. It's
Right.
foreshadowing.
The next day, our Native American member, he says that there's something in the trees that gets him really, really spooked.
And they're like, "But you fear no man."
But that thing,
It's no man.
their acid tries to run away, and the the guy that follows her is the first one to get killed. The lady sees absolutely nothing, and when confronted and asked, like, what happened to him? What did you do? Her only answer is that the jungle took him.
Yeah, we had like a little struggle, but it was very very brief. The guy is just, I don't even remember how exactly he dies. He just dies and then is carried.
Yeah, we see just blood being sprayed, and they find giblets, essentially.
Yeah, just
Giblets?
yeah, he was just torn to shreds or something.
I never know how to pronounce it.
Of course, they're really confused because, first of all, if she had done it, I mean, I think she was still with her. Yeah, she was still bound, so it would be really hard for her to do this. And if she did do this, then why didn't she run away when she had the chance?
Yeah,
So
exactly.
it's very confusing, and then it's also confusing that there's these remains scattered through the jungle.
And as Dutch kind of orders the rest of the unit to find his body, we have a pan of the camera going up the tree and showing us that he's strung way, way up high.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's about this time when it's mostly Dutch who starts connecting the dots. He starts thinking that maybe this is connected to what happened to the other guys.
One of them, the Australian guy, Aussie Man, here in my notes, he gets apparently speared, but I think later we find out that it's like a plasma cannon.
Yeah, it's
through
like
his chest.
Like he's been shot by something. Like
Yeah, like it leaves a gaping hole in his chest, like from one end to the other, and he just dies instantly. One of them does see the invisible hunter running
I
away.
think it's Mac. Yeah, yeah. That's it. It's apparently.
Yeah, exactly.
The Australian guy's Blaine. So yeah, he's shot, and then Mac sees something. It's a shape. It's not visible. It's like a distortion of the light. Let's say it like that, like a diffraction in the in a vague humanoid shape, and then it has these eyes that flash. And I still don't really understand what the point of that is. Like, is that a taunt? Because like that would just be revealing your position to.
It could be, but it could be the point where the light kind of the reflective code might not be perfect, and it kind of up.
I don't know, because it flashes in a weird way. It almost like I don't know. I feel like it's a taunt. And yeah, Mac is terrified. Blaine was the guy that had the minigun, so he grabs Blaine's minigun and just unloads the gun towards the
general direction of the
direction as it runs away, and it disappears. And the other
everybody
guys
joins them,
and yeah, they're like, well, we're shooting, and they start shooting everything, the entire jungle, and ahead of them, just they unload the entire thing.
This is when they kind of realize that they have no idea what they're fighting against. The asset finds a little bit of the creature's blood on a leaf that's like seems to green, like flashing neon fluorescent, and she samples it. I think. What do you mean? My note says sample. Does she taste it? I don't remember.
I mean, I remember her having a bit of it on her leg. I feel like it just splashed onto her.
I don't think it matters. We see the hunter tending to his wounds. He screams out like before that, we see him remove his cloaking device, like the first time, as you want to say, the first time that we see him fully without his cloaking device. And he's essentially stapling his wound shut. He lets out this inhumane scream that can be heard by everyone and everything around him.
And let's mention that, the kind of treatment, the kind of tools that this entity has at its disposal is some very advanced stuff. We see some very weird contraptions coming from his arm.
His mask, he's got a metal mask covering his face and dreadlocks.
It's a very peculiar figure indeed.
And at night, while they're guarding Aussie Man's body, they get distracted when Mac thinks he's tripping out, losing his friends like this. And when he hears something, he goes crazy to kill it, thinking that it might be whatever killed his friends. It turns out to be a boar. And when during this distraction, the hunter seemingly steals Aussie Man's body because, he really wants that trophy. he's going to rip that skull out of him.
They had basically rigged the periphery of their camp with claymores and traps and just yeah, it would have been really really hard if not impossible for someone to go near them without them noticing. And of course, you know, the boar kind of messed it up because it probably tripped a bunch of the traps, but it's still weird that something managed to sneak right under their noses and just snag the Blaine's body.
Yeah, these guys are the elite.
Yeah.
It must be like fighting a ghost at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Eventually, the lady tells them that she saw him. It is invisible, like you can't see him normally, but she did find his blood, and if it bleeds.
If it bleeds, we can kill it.
So this is when they prepare to make a stand?
They're essentially waiting for it. Because by this time, Dutch is certain that this thing is not human. Because that's the thing. That time when they shot basically the entire jungle, nothing could have survived that. So yeah, they're up against a far superior hunter, and they don't know what it is. They understand it's not human. The asset, as you say, the girl tells a story. I think it's about this time. She tells a story that her local village, basically, they have this legend.
Yes, true.
They tell of this devil, hunter of men,
who comes out in the hotter years of summer.
Yeah.
Okay, and just disappears people.
Yep.
That's true. That's a good touch to create some world building.
Yeah, and Dutch also realized that the girl has been very exposed, and so it's kind of weird that she hasn't been touched by the thing. And Dutch realizes, well, because this thing clearly is someone who hunts for sport.
Yeah, it's not going after women or unarmed creatures. Or
it has to be a honorable kill. And so yeah, so people who are unarmed and defenseless aren't a good sport. Whatever this is, this creature has honor, a lot of it.
So after a little taunt from Dutch, the hunter comes a knocking, is caught in a trap, but is able to shoot his way out of it and is able to injure someone. Mac goes after him to avenge Ozyman. Dylan is following behind him, and they spot him under a tree.
Yeah, Mac does a really weird like grabbing Dylan.
Come here.
And then he's like, "Look," he points and he's like, "You see it?" And pointing towards the trees. Mac is almost like a little unhinged at this point.
I mean, yeah, he's going through insanity.
Yeah,
he's shell shocked, and we see it firsthand.
Yeah.
And so their plan is Mac goes first, and then Dylan would circle around to finish the job. Unfortunately, when Dylan gets there, Mac is already dead.
Oh yeah, the 3 red dots.
Mm-hmm.
We get introduced to the 3 red dots that start scanning, and when they go over Mac's forehead, a trigger's pulled and he drops dead with a hole in his forehead.
The native guy stays back to borrow some time, gets
Get to the chopper.
Death off camera, and the hunter finishes the job on the GI that was wounded and wounds Dutch again, who, I mean, tanked the shot like no one else in the movie so far.
Yeah, somehow, like, Dylan, there's an interesting scene when Dylan is shooting the creature, and that shot, it cuts Dylan's arm in half, basically, off, like, a little under the shoulder. And so his finger is still on the trigger, and as his arm falls on the floor, it's still shooting.
He gets knocked into a river bank, I guess, and decides that here is probably the best place to take it down. He covers himself in mud. He crafts some weapons and some more traps. And he lures him with
and it's important. So Dutch been essentially running for his life at this point, and in a way also luring the creature away from the helicopter, I guess. So as you said, like, he covers himself in mud. He doesn't do this on purpose. Like, he is covered in mud from just going like over, like, falling down a waterfall, and you know, and for some reason, as he's trying to hide under the roots of a tree, the creature appears, looks around, and doesn't see him. Shoots some other creature and runs off. And yeah, like he managed to survive just because he was covered in mud, and the heat vision couldn't see.
This is when they kind of fight. Dutch is able to injure it slightly and destroy its invisibility thingamajig before the hunter decides to disappear. Dutch is trying still to get back to his landing zone. Like they fight a little bit more essentially until
It's this goes for a while, yeah.
yeah. I want to cut it short because what happens is I think Dutch eventually manages to overpower him and break his cannon until the hunter realizes that he has absolutely nowhere to go. Like even after removing his mask, we see its hideous face, and they still fight for a little bit more. When
Mother-
yeah, you one ugly mother. When the hunter essentially decides that okay, I have no chance of winning, I am going to take you and my ship, supposedly, and everything in this jungle with me, and activates some doomsday button on him on his armor, and essentially nukes the jungle. Actually, sorry, he
barely.
essentially nukes the jungle,
Yeah, Dutch barely survives.
and he's extracted the next morning with the only other survivor already in there, and also pretty shook by the event.
Yeah, that's how the movie ends. Again, the premise I think is really interesting. If you have a creature like the Predator, which by the way is never called that, like they never give it any name in the movie.
No, so I was actually not calling it Predator and calling it Hunter. I think that was also the working title of the movie.
Possibly. But yeah, the idea of having this creature in a jungle, which I mean, there's quite a lot of jungles in the world. If an alien creature came down to like a random place in the world, like obviously they probably wouldn't land in a city because cities are like 1% of the land surface of the earth. So they would probably land in like a desert or a forest or a jungle.
Or water.
Yeah, assuming they choose land. But yeah, like it's a pretty natural place to have one of these creatures. Not to mention that its habitats, like it's very much acclimated to the jungle.
Mm-hmm.
This is its natural habitat.
But on a deeper level, though, I think the fact that the movie chooses to set itself on the period of time that it does, on the location that it does, it's so much more than considering all the hideous stuff that hideous between them, obviously, that they were doing to each other. This kind of urban legend, and I'm calling it urban just because that is it's a war story in this case, like a ghost that takes people from the jungle. It could be anything from a very weird and powerful animal to an actually deranged person, and the way that people feel these, just as Anna the asset was saying, telling about the story of the legend of the hunter, whatever it was called, it added so much to the world building of the movie. That's how this is the stuff that makes legends.
Yeah, and the idea of the wars, the war story, the war legends. It's very, wars and just armed conflicts like this. They have a lot of potential. Pretty much the most potential to generate stuff like this. It was like some guy like kills like 10 people or 15 people, and then suddenly he's turned into this. You have like the Red Baron,
Ghost of Kiev.
yeah, more recent example, but yes.
Mm-hmm.
But also another interesting thing is that so if you had a creature like this, it would make a lot of sense that the first like the first people to encounter it, or to to go face to face with it, will be guerrilla fighters, or some kind of, it would be mostly guerrilla fighters because of the location that they're in specifically.
Mm-hmm.
Like no other person would be in a jungle
Armed.
like this. Yeah. And yeah,
And they
not to
probably also hunt other things, you know, not only humans, but obviously it is the most dangerous game to hunt.
yeah, that is
We would know, right?
yeah, that is the most interesting thing about this concept, is that because it is a creature that is very, that has honor, it has very high standards. Yeah, it would prefer, it's like humans hunting lions, for example. It is the highest trophy would be like a lion. Of course, I'm saying that to in their perspective, because obviously to us it's like, that's frankly pretty disgusting, but whatever. Yeah, the highest trophy, so the equivalent of mortals, would be a lion. To this creature would be a human, the apex predator of this planet.
It's also interesting that they choose to take their skulls
Mhm.
because that is what makes humans strong. It's their brains.
Yeah, the essentially the central nervous system, the spine, and the brain. Yeah, yeah, that's really interesting because the teeth would be the trophy for like a lion, for example.
Sharks,
Yeah, the teeth of the shark. Yeah,
claws.
I didn't think of that. That's really, yeah, that's really really smart too. Um,
Obviously, taking the skulls of your enemies is. I'm just trying to look at it in a more poetic kind of
no, but
kind
that
of
makes sense.
lens.
That makes sense. I didn't think of it like that, but that does make sense.
But right, even the way that the American forces are portrayed, you know, you used an expression during our viewing of the movie, which was this is essentially propaganda.
And I wonder. I mean, this is kind of Poe's law a little bit, maybe, but I wonder if maybe the point of the movie was precisely that. Maybe it was like satire of,
Honestly, of
you know,
all of these, I would if there's one that's satire, I would have to go with Commando.
okay.
Um, I'm not sure if 'cause it's so over the top, in my opinion, that it turns like it circles back into being a parody of itself.
Mm-hmm.
It is so we're not here to talk about that movie anyway.
Yeah.
But it's something that predates this, and it shares a lot of things with this movie, namely a producer and the main character. Obviously, what am I saying? But no, I don't think that this one would be like that. I think that this was just a norm for the movies at the time. We didn't watch a lot of them because was never our thing.
Mm-hmm.
But that's just the way they are. The American hero, you know, it's always some second generation American who takes the flag of the country to an extreme length and to like what's the expression I'm looking for? It's like a love for the flag that is unreal.
Like extreme patriotism, like fanatical patriotism, that kind of.
Fanatical is more the word I was looking for.
But yeah, also I do think that in general the design and the whole the whole concept of the predator, I think, is also just so well done. For the time, like it aged really well. It aged basically as well as Alien did. The design for the xenomorph.
Go figure why they crossed over so many times.
Yeah, yeah, and also I'm glad that I mentioned that, because also just in general, the of course the concept and the premises are different, but yeah, they are pretty similar in a lot they both have green blood, they both kill people. I mean, not for the same reason. It's interesting because the alien is more like an animal. The
No,
xenomorph.
it is. Now that you mention it, is absolutely remarkable how different they are in that aspect. Because one hunts for need, the other hunts for joy.
Yeah, and it's interesting because yeah, the xenomorph is very much an animal. Like it thinks like an animal. It just
It's kind of like a eusocial species almost. because they're the xenomorphs that we see are drones. They're working to
Hmm.
expand the colony,
Yeah,
right?
they're like bees in a
They
way.
have a queen.
Yeah, but the predator is very much sentient in the sense that it has
Self-aware.
it has a concept of honor. It's very human. I mean, not to mention that it is, human shaped as well, other than the face. But yeah, it's very human. It uses technology.
Yeah, and although they're extremely technologically advanced, they deliberately choose to live in a tribalistic society.
Yeah, that's kind of weird. I've seen a lot of people criticize or be confused about that. It's like, why are they tribal when they have this kind of technology? Like,
Why not?
wouldn't they have like a more advanced kind of tech of society to accompany the technology?
Oh, is democracy that advanced? Uh-huh.
Yeah, like we don't know what happened. Maybe this is like a post-apocalyptic society that like something happened and then they went back to tribes, or maybe tribes are just like the natural results of wars or other things like.
Whatever. It doesn't matter because for this movie, it's speculation.
Yeah, yeah, and it just works. Like this works. Like they're
It
smart.
does.
So like being tribal doesn't mean that they're like primitive, not at all. Which I think that also kind of ties into the that aspect. Like people criticize thinking that it's like it's a mismatch, but those are people who consider like tribes to be a primitive thing, which isn't the case. But yeah, it's very interesting indeed. And and I think it's so smart, the way how it ends, the way how the like this thing is smarter than a human pretty much. So when it sees, okay, I've lost, like they admit defeat, like they don't fight to the death. Like I admit my defeat. It was an honorable battle, but now I must go. And everything that I have with me is also gonna go. And so it blows itself up. Um, that's also really, really cool and really smart. Yeah, and the design of the Predator is something that's lasted for, like,
Yeah, it's got a very unique silhouette indeed.
yeah, the dreadlocks really create an interesting look to the dreads and the metal mask, and then its face, it's
Expressionless, it's
like,
blank.
yeah,
But
but
that's something that it is for this. But I think later on, every mask from every different yautja, I think that's how it's pronounced. Every yautja has a different mask.
yeah, but the face, the actual face of it, that design has been it has aged really, like, yeah, it's aged really well. It's really well designed, and it was actually, yeah, it was made by the by one of the most prestiged schools of practical effects that there is. It was the Stan Winsel's School of Character Arts, exactly. I hope I'm correct on this, but I'm pretty sure that these were the guys who designed that, and yeah, this was essentially their masterpiece. The face, because it's all practical, obviously. The face with the moving, the four kind of moving jaws, like detached, like tendrils or whatever on its jaws.
It
Very
is a very interesting design. Yes, beneath the mask as well. I'm sorry. I was thinking about the wine my thralls has still didn't.
oops.
It's okay.
Do we still have,
Um,
like, is it's gonna run out eventually, but we gotta replenish it.
ah, it's fine. Fall is coming.
The fall is coming, more than one way.
Anywho, anything else you'd like to add to this?
Uh, well, it was, it's a very influential movie, and yeah, it really left a mark. and yeah, I want to see the most recent one.
That can be arranged.
Yeah,
All right then. What would you rate this movie?
I would rate this movie 9 skulls out of 10 skulls. Not, hmm. Yeah, basically that. 9 out of 10.
I'm gonna give it a little bit less. Let's
Okay,
average it out. Let's average it out. Yeah, that's fine.
okay. Like an 8.
Oh yeah, I was gonna go for 8.5, but yeah, so you know,
Yeah, eight.
nine is
Yeah,
fine.
8.5. I agree with that.
9 is fine. You know, who cares? So that's it. That's our final score. You decide which one. The candles are out. The circles have been erased, and we will let silence reign again. The Grymm Mansion is closing its gates. We over here wish you an awful night, and until we meet again.